In the deepest heart of the Taklamakan desert every trace of water had long dried up and local guides fled in panic for their lives. The famous Swedish explorer Sven Hedin lay prone upon the scorching hot sand dunes, clinging desperately to the last hint of faint moisture left on his lips. He could never have known this desperate race against death was not merely a fight for his own survival but also destined to awaken an ancient city, slumbering buried beneath the sand for 1,000 years tonight. Let us follow the soft glimmer of candlelight and step into the lonely beating life of Sven Hedin, a soul bound forever to the desolate wilderness. Sven Hedin is a name eternally intertwined with the legendary Sea of Death, the cruel unforgiving desert wasteland of Central Asia. In his hour of utmost unbearable thirst he stumbled upon the deepest hidden pulse of history, the long-lost ancient kingdom of Lulan. Some dismiss his discovery as mere random luck, while others regard it as the desert's noble reward granted only to the bravest undaunted wanderers. On this quiet still night let us feel together the heavy oppression and magnificent grandeur rising from the depths of the barren wilderness and witness how he escaped certain death against all odds. If the silent wilderness could speak it would surely breathe out the weary gasps and silent struggles of Sven Hedin during that fatal journey across the wasteland. Driven by an unyielding hunger to uncover hidden geographical truths, he wagered his very life venturing deep into forbidden lifeless lands in search of ancient miracles. Standing before the vanished ruins of Lulan, he was far more than a mere explorer and discoverer. He became a humble pilgrim seeking quiet redemption amid the dust of forgotten centuries. Within this tranquil tale meant for quiet reflection you will hear the soft low murmur of desert winds sweeping across the endless passage of time. Imagine wandering alone across boundless burning yellow sand, your throat parched and cracked beyond the ability to utter a single sound. Every pore of your body cries out in desperate craving for water, while the horizon stretches endlessly wrapped in twisted shimmering heat haze blurring the line between earth and sky. This was the cruel reality of the Taklamakan desert in 1895, where Swedish explorer Sven Hedin endured the absolute extreme limit of human willpower. His attendants had already collapsed lifeless upon the sand. His camels perished one after another, leaving him crawling solitary and exhausted deep within this sea of inevitable death. Tonight, accompanied by the softly flickering glow of the hearth fire, we walk fully into the untold life of this remarkable soul. Through this tranquil tale meant only for quiet reflection, he was a lone wanderer lingering on the edge of civilization, searching patiently for the missing broken fragments of lost history, a man who survived the brink of death by miracle and reopened the sealed ancient chronicle of a millennium-old civilization. He brought back not only his own life from the merciless desert but also the name that stunned the entire scholarly world, Lulan. How did this sacred fated revelation descend upon him amid utter hopelessness and despair? Let us follow the desert wind drifting across 100 years of time and journey slowly back to the desolate wilderness where his legendary adventure first began. Sven Hedin's heart never truly belonged to the cold quiet air of his native Sweden. His spirit remained forever bound to the burning passionate soil of the East. Yet in the spring of 1895 this profound love for exploration nearly became a fatal tomb for him and his entire expedition team. He set out accompanied by 2 servants and a caravan of camels, determined to cross the Taklamakan, the deadly desert known locally as the land where no one enters and returns alive. At the beginning of their journey, the expedition carried the quiet arrogance of seasoned men of science, convinced their abundant supplies and careful preparation would easily overcome the unknown threats of shifting sand dunes and brutal wilderness. But the desert quickly stripped away all false mercy. Every drop of precious water evaporated rapidly beneath the blistering, unforgiving sun. When the last trace of moisture vanished from their cracked, parched lips, primal physical fear crept into their minds, gnawing at their nerves like a venomous serpent. Sven Hedin watched his once gentle, loyal camels cry out weakly in fatal dehydration before collapsing heavily onto the hot sand. Becoming one with the endless dunes, he was forced to abandon precious surveying instruments, carefully preserved manuscripts, journals, and even the diaries he cherished more than his own life. This loss extended far beyond material supplies. It marked the complete collapse of all dignity, comfort, and security he had built within civilized society. In that desperate moment he was no longer an elegant, respected geographer and scholar, reduced instead to a raw, instinct-driven creature craving nothing more than a single drop of water to sustain life. He wrote honestly in his private diary, "Death itself holds no true terror. What torments the soul endlessly is the endless sober agony of unrelenting thirst." On the 4th day of extreme unbearable dehydration, Sven Hedin made a desperate, almost self-sacrificing choice, leaving his dying companions behind in the wasteland. This was not an act of cold betrayal but his final desperate gamble against cruel probability. He had to find water quickly or every soul in the party would perish and turn into dried, lifeless mummies beneath the sand. Wearing worn leather boots with soles worn thin and broken, he dragged his exhausted body forward step by step through Waist-deep drifting sand. When his legs could no longer support his weight, he crawled slowly across the hot dunes like a weary serpent, pausing, gasping for breath for minutes after every small forward movement. Miracles often arrive only when all hope has faded completely from the heart. Far along the horizon he caught sight of an unreal patch of faint green emerging from the barren yellow wasteland. It was a seasonal water pool beside the Hedin River, its water murky and muddy yet filled with the breath of life. Instead of rushing forward recklessly in wild desperation, he cupped the cool water carefully with numb, trembling fingers, moistening his dried throat gently before lowering his blistered, aching feet into the shallow pool. Letting the soothing coolness seep deep into his weary bones, he filled his empty boots with fresh water, intending to retrace his path and rescue his stranded companions. Yet the desert stretched far too vast and merciless. In the end, only he walked out alive from the wasteland. This harrowing near-death experience forever transformed his bond with the land. He believed his life had been granted back to him as a gift by the silent, unforgiving wilderness. Years later, when he returned once more to these barren plains, he chanced upon a cluster of broken wooden pillars standing silently amid the sand after a violent sandstorm. Overwhelmed with a strange, trembling sense of homecoming, he realized he had stumbled upon the long-forgotten, buried ruins of Lulan, a civilization lost to the world for over 1,000 years. The discovery of Lulan sent shockwaves rippling through the global archaeological community like a powerful earthquake, filling in a vital missing link along the ancient Silk Road. Yet beneath the glory of this monumental breakthrough, Sven Hedin remained haunted by an unshakable, lingering shadow of doubt and unease. Within the ancient ruins he unearthed Han Dynasty wooden slips, exquisite preserved silk fabrics, and perfectly preserved human bones kept intact by the dry desert air. As night fell, he would sit alone among crumbled walls and weathered ruins, listening to the wind drifting through broken pillars, letting out low, mournful wails. He could not help feeling the ancient inhabitants watching silently from the shadows, regarding him as a reckless intruder trespassing upon their long-forgotten resting place. He began to ponder a profound, troubling paradox. Was he a noble savior resurrecting lost civilization, or merely a looter, plundering historical relics for fame and glory? Exploration during that colonial era inevitably carried the marks of imperial ambition. He shipped vast quantities of precious cultural relics back to Europe, seeking academic honor, social recognition, and lasting fame. Yet in his later years his youthful hunger for reputation gradually faded, replaced by deeper, quiet anxiety and reflection. He witnessed rivers shifting their ancient courses across the Darim Basin, lakes shrinking and disappearing one by one, and Lopner slowly transforming into a desolate, lifeless salt flat. All his life he had sought to conquer and map this vast wild land, only to realize humanity stood tiny and insignificant like a single grain of sand against the immense, unyielding scale of nature and geography. His spiritual connection with Lulan deepened into a timeless resonance spanning 1,000 years, bound together by shared fate of destruction, decay, and quiet rebirth. He came to understand he had survived that brutal drought perhaps for one sacred purpose: to serve as a messenger awakening the silent, forgotten civilization of Lulan to the modern world. Sven Hedin possessed the typical unyielding, stubborn resolve of a Nordic soul. Even in his declining old age he remained determined to return once more to the remote Gobi Desert. His lifetime brought him praise and admiration from emperors and kings, yet also endless doubt, misunderstanding, and harsh criticism through the chaotic years of war and global conflict. Some critics accused him of cooperating with powerful political regimes merely to secure meager funding for his costly expeditions. Amid all the noisy worldly disputes, accusations, and controversy, a quiet, untouched corner of the desert remained forever sealed safely within his inner heart. In his old age he often slipped back into vivid dreams, reliving the moment he nearly perished of thirst, wandering once again beside the quiet water pool of the Hedin River. In these haunting visions death no longer appeared terrifying or cruel, instead revealing a pure, stripped tranquility far removed from mortal vanity and desire. He began writing frequent letters, reconnecting with those who had shared life and death beside him in the wilderness or their descendants. His later writings grew restrained, gentle, and calm, no longer filled merely with cold geographical data and survey records, instead filled with lyrical praise for desert sunsets, vast starry skies, and the quiet, solemn beauty of the wasteland. Though he returned to live in the comfortable, elegant mansions of Stockholm, his soul remained forever dried and settled upon the silent shores of Lopner. This strange freedom confined by the land, this profound loneliness nourished by ancient ruins, became the quiet underlying tone defining his final years. He waited peacefully in solitude for his final journey onward toward a boundless wilderness, free from tormenting thirst, worldly dispute, and regret, under the eternal stretch of unclouded starry skies. When Sven Hedin finally closed his eyes for the last time, he may have heard the soft rhythm of tides rolling against Swedish harbors or the endless whisper of wind sweeping across the barren plains of Loppner. He left behind not only detailed precise maps, precious cultural relics and invaluable exploration records, but also the unbreakable dignity of the human spirit. When facing extreme hardship and despair, he showed the world, even in the most desolate, forgotten corners of the earth, as long as one soul dares to wander, observe, seek and persist, history will never fade into complete oblivion. His life formed a solitary complete circle, beginning with raw primal survival and ending as a solemn watchful guardian of ancient civilization. Tonight, as we drift toward peaceful sleep within warm sheltered rooms, we may draw strength from Sven Hedin's quiet perseverance. The temporary thirst, confusion, loss and uncertainty we face in daily life may well be the necessary path leading us to discover our own inner Lulon. Hidden deep within the soul. Outside the window, the night wind carries a faint distant scent of desert sand, humming a soft ancient lullaby for your rest. No need to dwell anxiously over the uncertain roads of tomorrow. Simply sink slowly into dreamland. Amid this calm, soothing rhythm, within the vast gentle wilderness of your dreams, may you find your own clear sweet spring of eternal peace. Good night.